The Spanish-American War of 1898 was a pivotal conflict in the histories of the United States, Spain, Cuba, and the Philippines. Lasting only a few months, from April to August 1898, the war marked the emergence of the United States as a global power and the decline of Spain's colonial empire. It was driven by a mix of humanitarian concerns, economic interests, and imperial ambitions, fueled by sensationalist journalism and shifting geopolitical dynamics. The war's outcomes reshaped international relations and set the stage for U.S. dominance in the Western Hemisphere and beyond. Background and causes. By the late 19th century, Spain's once vast empire was crumbling. Its remaining colonies, including Cuba and the Philippines, were hotbeds of unrest. In Cuba, a brutal insurgency against Spanish rule had erupted in 1895, led by figures like José Martí. The Spanish response, under General Valeriano Weyler, was ruthless, employing reconcentration policies that forced rural Cubans into camps, leading to widespread suffering and death from disease and starvation. These atrocities sparked outrage in the United States, where public opinion was shaped by yellow journalism, sensationalist reporting by newspapers like William Randolph Hearst's New York Journal and Joseph Pulitzer's New York World. Stories of Spanish cruelty, often exaggerated, galvanized American sympathy for the Cuban cause. Economic interests also played a role. U.S. businesses had significant investments in Cuba, particularly in sugar plantations, which were disrupted by the ongoing conflict. American policymakers, including expansionists like Theodore Roosevelt and Henry Cabot Lodge, saw an opportunity to assert U.S. influence in the Caribbean and Pacific, aligning with the era's imperialist fervor. The strategic importance of Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida and the Philippines, a gateway to Asian markets, further fueled American interest. The immediate trigger for the war was the sinking of the USS Maine in Havana Harbor on February 15, 1898. The battleship, sent to protect American interests amid rising tensions, exploded, killing 266 of its 355 crew members. The cause, likely an internal coal bunker explosion, was unclear, but U.S. newspapers, particularly Hearst's, blamed Spain, popularizing the rallying cry, "Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain." A naval inquiry, biased by anti-Spanish sentiment, concluded that an external mine was responsible, further inflaming public opinion. Though Spain sought to avoid war through diplomatic concessions, including ending reconcentration and offering Cuba limited autonomy, these efforts were too late to appease the United States. On April 11, 1898, President William McKinley, initially hesitant but pressured by Congress and public opinion, asked for authorization to intervene in Cuba. On April 20th, Congress passed a joint resolution demanding Spanish withdrawal and authorizing force, though it included the Teller Amendment, which disclaimed any U.S. intent to annex Cuba. Spain declared war on April 24th, and the United States followed suit the next day. The war. The Spanish-American War was fought on two main fronts: the Caribbean, primarily Cuba, and the Pacific, the Philippines. Despite its brevity, the conflict showcased the United States' growing military capabilities and exposed Spain's weakened state. The Pacific Theater. The Battle of Manila Bay. The war began in the Philippines, where Commodore George Dewey's Asiatic Squadron decisively defeated the Spanish fleet at Manila Bay on May 1, 1898. Dewey, acting on orders from Assistant Secretary of the Navy Theodore Roosevelt, sailed from Hong Kong to engage the outdated Spanish ships. In a matter of hours, Dewey's modern steel warships destroyed the Spanish fleet without losing a single American life. The victory gave the United States control of Manila Bay and marked the first major blow to Spain's Pacific presence. Following the naval victory, U.S. troops, supported by Filipino insurgents led by Emilio Aguinaldo, moved to capture Manila. Aguinaldo, who had been exiled but returned with U.S. encouragement, believed the Americans would support Philippine independence. However, U.S. intentions were ambiguous, and tensions later arose as American forces occupied Manila on August 13, 1898, after a staged battle with Spanish defenders. The Caribbean Theater. In Cuba, U.S. troops faced harsh conditions: poor supplies, outdated gear, and tropical diseases like yellow fever. The 28,000 regulars and 200,000 volunteers included the Rough Riders, led by Theodore Roosevelt. The campaign focused on Santiago de Cuba. On June 10, 1898, U.S. Marines captured Guantanamo Bay, securing a base. By late June, 17,000 troops landed near Santiago. Major battles on July 1st at El Caney and San Juan Hill led to U.S. victories despite heavy losses. On July 3rd, Spain's fleet, trying to escape Santiago, was destroyed by the U.S. Navy. Santiago surrendered on July 17th. Puerto Rico soon followed. The war's end. With its navy destroyed and its colonies overrun, Spain sued for peace. An armistice was signed on August 12, 1898, and the Treaty of Paris was finalized on December 10th. The treaty's terms were harsh for Spain. It ceded Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines to the United States, with the U.S. paying $20 million for the Philippines. The war, lasting less than 4 months, cost the U.S. about 2,500 lives, mostly from disease, while Spain suffered heavier losses, including the collapse of its colonial empire. Consequences and legacy. The Spanish-American War transformed the U.S. into a global power through the acquisition of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. It sparked imperialist debates and led to the Philippine-American War. In Cuba, the U.S. maintained control despite nominal independence. Spain's defeat, El Desastre, triggered national reflection. Yellow journalism influenced U.S. intervention and future media roles. The war exposed military weaknesses, prompting major reforms. It elevated Theodore Roosevelt to national fame, shaping expansionist U.S. policy. Puerto Ricans gained citizenship in 1917, while the Philippines achieved independence in 1946. U.S. influence, however, remained strong across its new territories. The Spanish-American War of 1898 was a brief but transformative conflict. It dismantled Spain's colonial empire, launched the United States as an imperial power, and reshaped the destinies of Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Driven by humanitarian zeal, economic interests, and imperial ambition, the war reflected the complexities of a rapidly changing world. Its legacy, U.S. global ascendancy, debates over imperialism, and the enduring impact on former Spanish colonies continues to resonate in international relations and historical memory.